Okay, let me see. I had hard, so OBS failed to connect. Let's see if it came back. Am I back? It looks like I'm back, maybe? Cool. So yeah, sorry about that. Let me just do my spiel again real quick. So hi, I'm Joshua. I make art for video games. Uh, I make video games also. I make art in general. Today is September 18th, 2016. Today I am working on my video game Delver. It's a first-person procedural dungeon crawly thing. You can find more information at delvergame.com. That's it on my screen right now. It's an early access title, so if you want to support me, you can go ahead and throw a few bucks my way, and that helps fund the development. If not, you can wait till it comes out and make up your mind then. I know early access is kind of at a weird, people have different opinions on it, and I totally understand being a person in early access title. Yeah, sorry about that. I guess I had a little bit of I don't know if you call it a pre-roll, but I had like a little intro thing that I hacked together for people to kind of come here and congregate before my stream actually starts. I think one of my viewers, Dr. Kegel, he recommended I do that, and I think it was a good recommendation since there are about a dozen of you already here, which is cool. Rather than kind of like a really like cold start. This kind of lets people get warmed up, get into filter in, which I think worked out pretty well. Um, so also about streaming. I'm trying to do some administrative stuff real quick off the bat about streaming. I really love streaming. Actually, I think this is my 10th development stream on a regular basis, and I've done some bonus streams beyond that. So this is really cool. It's a really interesting way to work. So I've done, you may have noticed I've done a little bit of just a little bit of spit and polish around my little Twitch page. So it looks a little bit nicer, and I added that little pre-roll thing. Um, but that's enough about that. So let me look at I have a little checklist I'm kind of running down. So the big news is we pushed out the update. Yay! It's the September update for Delver. Went out last Sunday. I hinted last stream that we were trying to get it out soonish, and it went out that night. Because we had been pushing really hard that entire week, trying to get it done and into a good state. And we were both working really kind of late, long hours, which is not maintainable. So like the past, I don't know, a few days after it released, I've been kind of relaxing and kind of gathering my brain again. Um, but I like to just kind of look at what we've done because that's just my general thing is I just go to the command prompt and look at my repositories. And we just do a git log, one line, and since last week, because the relative dates are cool. And since we updated, we pushed out a few like hot fixes, I'd call them. So this was me finishing up the update here, is adding more decorations, adding more encounters. Um, I updated the splash screen. That was a little bit of a surprise. I didn't tell anybody I was going to do that. Hopefully, you folks like it. I think it looks a lot better than the previous splash screen. Um, I also snuck this in at the last minute too. Folks are complaining that they always get killed in the shop area. So I went through and I did a pass where I tried to widen out all the bottlenecks. So any area that was one tile wide is now two, but people still complain about it. So that might not have been the right solution. I'm trying to figure out ways to make that better. Um, but that was like a little stopgap measure. I'm not sure if people even noticed. Um, Yep, this is just a little thing. So up until for the past 2 months, I've been working with the room generator turned off, so I could see the hand built tiles. So this is just a system that actually builds rooms procedurally. So we have a mix of rooms that I've built, and we have a mix of rooms that the computer cranks out. Um, the ones that the computer cranks out are kind of crazy, but I like that a little bit. With my stuff, it's pretty regular and you can kind of predict what's going to happen. But when the builder spits one out, you kind of have to be on your toes because you never know what it's going to throw at you. So it looks like yeah, Chad is playing with some particles for beams. Um, uh, there's a marker we use to indicate um, like when you should move down to the next floor, and I always mess that up for some odd reason. Like we have two of them, and I have like a 50% chance of getting it right, and I always get it wrong. So I need to also go back and maybe eventually just change the graphic for that so I know it's the wrong one. Yeah, this is just some little bits here and there trying to get things cleaned up. Um, the new flames that you saw on the splash screen, Chad made it so you could start at a randomized frame, which helps break up the repetition so it looks a little bit nicer. Um, this is cleaning up some of our build stuff, it's backend stuff. This is a template piece that I found that wasn't supposed to get shipped, and so we removed that. This is when we were, so if you folks don't know, if you bought in the game Delver on Steam, there are different channels that we release to. There's the main channel that everybody gets by default, and then there is the beta branch, and that we typically update before the main branch. So that's what we're working out of here. So if you had subscribed to that channel, you would have been getting pretty frequent updates. This is cleaning out the cursor mode stuff. There was a crash we found that was user reported, and I really appreciate you folks taking the time to write up the user bug reports. I do read them, and I try to follow up on them, and I am actually creating bugs on the back end so we can track them. And this is some of the new stuff. So this is kind of for the next update. We're kind of thinking about cleaning up the UI and doing more particle effect stuff. So that's kind of like what we have been up to. What I'd like to do is just do kind of a mini retrospective. So if you're not familiar with what a retrospective is, it's just a look back at the past update and kind of talking through what I think went right and what I think went not so right. So I mean, so just starting with the things that went right, we put out a new update. It had almost been a year since our previous update, so pushing a new update was really awesome and really nerve-wracking, but it's nice to get new content out there. People are playing it, people are giving us good feedback. That's awesome. Another thing that went well for this update is we added an entirely new area with new textures, with new like decorations, with traps. It came together pretty well. And touching on the traps, like the room decorator system I was making with the prefabs. Like there was a stream a few weeks back where I was kind of going crazy because I had that idea rattling in my brain and I couldn't get it out. So they actually got the system put together and it works as I thought it would, which is really exciting. So we have these ways of generating these trap rooms kind of procedurally that I think are interesting. Another thing that went well is streaming. They went extremely well. I will keep doing this as I enjoy it, and I appreciate you guys' feedback. And also, my last little thing that went well is project management, which is kind of a weird thing to think about. So what's like some project management is different than product management, if it makes sense. It's kind of nuanced, but someone who's a product manager, they are in charge of the product, and they define features, and they talk about bugs, and they work with the community. And I do some of that, but what I'm talking about is project management, which is actually managing the actual development process itself. So I just wanted to show you, just so you can know I'm not lying, is in our GitHub, we are now using issues. So all of these things you see here are issues. And how this works in GitHub is you only have issues, and issues can be associated with milestones. So we use them for bugs, which have these little red tags here, and feature work. So this is new stuff, which has the green tag here. And I've been kind of in charge of creating these. So this is Torch in Caves is not Fulbright. It looks like so yeah. So the user who found this provided a picture, and I just kind of called out what he was talking about. And I also put a link to how I can get back to you. So I do once this gets fixed, I will go back to the thread and I'll post this is fixed. It should be out in the next update. So this is kind of how I'm tracking it. And if you notice, they have this milestone attached to the bug, so I can click on the milestone. And this is the November update. So that's a little bit of news too, is we are shooting to release, as it says there, by November 4. That may get pushed back. It's just tentative. It's just so we have like a stake in the ground to shoot for. And so yeah, hopefully we don't miss it. It would be nice to have it done early, but that's probably not going to happen. But here is a list of all the bugs and features that have been kind of put on um, this next update. Also, if we go back to the milestones, like this is just kind of a so I used to work for Microsoft, and this is kind of the team I was on. This is the process we use, and I think it worked pretty well. So we have the update that we're currently working on, and that's where the majority of the work is going. We have the next update out, and this is not as well defined. It's still kind of pretty cloudy, but we know roughly we want to release and do another release in January. We're trying to do like a 2 month update cadence, which I think is reasonable, given that I'm a full I'm a stay-at-home dad, and Chad has a very busy he has life issues too. We this is something we do in our free time for fun. So I'm just trying to say, okay, we'll shoot for January for the update after that. And then this last thing is the future update, which is scheduled for January 4th, 2020, um, which hopefully will be done. I kind of said that I'd like to be done by the game by next year. So what this represents is whenever I create a bug, if I think it's high priority, it goes in the next update. If it's not as high priority, I push it to the update beyond that. And then if it's something in general I'd like to do, it gets put into future, which may or may not happen, but it's just so we can track the idea. For example, if I look at the future update, there are some editor enhancements that I would like to have fixed, but they're not super high priority. They're just like low quality of life things. And it's not for the game itself, it's for the editor, so that's why I put it out in the future. Um, Okay, so this is just an overview of how we're trying to organize ourselves with some project management. I mean, it's not super sexy, but for those of you, I know quite a few of my people who watch me are um, developers themselves. So this is just kind of giving you a view of how we organize ourselves and how we are attempting to work. And this is something new that I started this update to better coordinate our efforts. Because it used to be that we would just work, and at some point in time, we'd arbitrarily say, okay, release. But now, since we want to get the thing done, we're being a little bit more organized about it. Okay, so if I look back, this is still kind of the retrospective part of the stream, looking at things that could be improved. Um, I said we did, we pushed out an update. Now that was a win. But if you guys were paying attention closely, we actually pushed out about 4 updates, which is usually a sign that we missed something. And we did. Again, that's part of the game with procedural generation is sometimes combinations are just you can't test it all. And some things we just missed just because we were like trying to get fixes in, quick, kind of last minute, and it was just a little sloppy. So those have been tidied up, and it should be in a good state now. I think the last thing we fixed was last night. There was a bug in the editor that if you try to go into play mode, it would crash. So that has been fixed. That was pushed out last night, early today. So that could be improved. Maybe actually, generally, when software development, what you want to do is you actually want to be done before you push out the release, so you have some time to actually let it bake. And while I use it, I can make sure that it's at a good quality level. And we used to actually do this with the beta branch channel, where we would push it out a month early, and the folks could play it for a month, and then that months would get promoted to the main channel. But um, that we wanted to release, so we skipped that publishing to the beta channel first. Also, a thing that could be improved is the new area is cool, but it's just environment, right? Like I love environment art, and I think environment art is awesome, but it would have been nice to actually like add some new enemy types and new item types and maybe weapons and stuff, just to kind of help differentiate the area some more. It was on the list of things to do. It just ended up getting cut because of time concerns. And similarly, talking about cutting, my last 2 points are around that. The room decorator, I was really excited about. It kind of came in kind of late, like within like the last week or two of this update, and all it does is traps. Potentially, it could do a lot more, but I only had time to do traps, and even with that, I didn't do as many traps as I wanted, because again, I had to scale it back just to ship. And again, this all kind of wraps up, and the thing that could be improved is Chad touched on this when he joined my stream, is ambition and time management. And this happens to all game dev projects. Is you want to do more than you have time for, And since we do this in our free time, and to be honest with you, I only get maybe at a minimum 2 hours a week to work on this, and maybe up to 6 or 8 on a week if I'm really pushing hard. So I really can't sink a lot of time into this. So I have to be really strategic on um, how I actually get work done. Okay, so that's enough of that. Actually, I'm just going to go ahead and play the game a little bit. So it's been kind of a dry stream so far. So just making sure, looking at my source, making sure I'm up to date. And let's just launch into Delver, and I'll play a little bit of the new area just so folks know what I'm talking about. Yep, so this is my game, and I'm just going to kind of just cheat my way down to the interesting stuff. And now that we added encounters too, it's going to be hard for me to actually kind of just walk and talk around here. Okay, and let's give myself just level myself up a few times so I don't instantly die, because that would be counterproductive. I did try hacking in like basically where I couldn't die, um, but I guess my hack wasn't super great because I just basically took away uh, the die ability, but my health was still negative, and for some odd reason, I guess the code is written such that if your health is negative, the player doesn't update. So like my move was really slow, and like it was a really weird, like half-baked solution that didn't work well. So I pulled that out. Otherwise, I mean, it was interesting for like a few minutes, but then it just ended up not working. Okay, so this is actually one of the first starts I built. So if you go way back into think the end of July, this is one of the areas that I first worked on. I think it still holds up pretty well. That's the problem when you're working on a project is when I first started making these areas, I had no idea and almost like very little inspiration as to what they would become. And if you watch some of the early streams, I'm worried about it actually. Like I'm not 100% sure of how this is going to come together. It did. I think the results are pretty good. But when you're first starting like kind of from scratch, it's super intimidating, right? So I threw down some textures and some colors I thought looked good. Um, and I kind of went from there. So the problem is the quality is different, right? So this is a little bit, so I want to keep the quality and style consistent. So sometimes that involves going back to some of the earlier pieces and touching them up. And it's just like with any project, that's kind of a reality. Let me see. I'm just going to play a little bit more. So these are kind of like little cool happy accidents where I leave the little hole. I'm talking about the hole in the geometry where I leave stuff open, and sometimes it connects and sometimes it doesn't. Sorry, trying not to die here. Tried to hit him with a potion bomb, but didn't work. Um, okay. So yeah, just trying to maintain a constant quality across the bar is interesting. Um, yep, that's the new trap. I thought that it turned out pretty well. So working on the new trap, the old trap I realized was so. Oh crap! Maybe I can lure him across here. Yep, come on. There we go. Um, so let me bring up the map so it doesn't happen again. So what was I talking about? I was talking about, yeah, so with the spikes, um, the old spikes were too small. So what this means is because it's a chunky pixel, low polygon style, there's kind of like this minimum size of geometry, right? Like if the geometry is smaller than a pixel, it doesn't look quite right because the pixel, I mean, it looks somewhat voxely, but it's not really voxely. But I think of it that way. So if the geometry is actually smaller than the pixels would support, that's a bad sign. This is something that I realized, like almost 3 years into the project. So some of my older mesh pieces I'm gonna have to rework just so that the the mesh size and the pixel size work well together. If you guys can understand what I'm talking about. So for me, that means I made the spikes bigger. So they ended up looking a little bit more like blades, which I think is okay. They still read as dangerous, and I think they look better because they just have more pixels to work with. Um, sorry, I've been ignoring chat. Let me just look over there real quick. So everybody's saying hello at the beginning. So hello, everybody. Thank you for stopping by. I really appreciate it. Yeah, since we released last Sunday, like my followers on Twitch has gone up by like 40%, which is very flattering. Hopefully, I don't bore you guys to death. I appreciate you guys showing interest in my project and in my art, and that's really, really awesome. And it means a lot to me. Thank you. Um, yeah, KU is talking, the KU022 is talking about chunky pixels, which, yeah, I love this style. It's fun to work in. Um, Griver, Griever 84 says, it looks awesome so far, man. Thank you. Yeah. So for those of you who don't know, there are two people who work on this project, and I do all the visual stuff. So I do the art. So I do like UI art. I do all the inventory art. I do all the 3D models. I do a good chunk of the level design. So everything visual is kind of what I own. So I'm glad that you're kind of feeling how things are looking. Yeah, and they're talking about happy accidents. Yeah, I love Bob Ross, and so with this, I have to kind of build the happy accidents in, uh, and kind of be okay letting them happen. You know, sometimes they work out and sometimes they don't, but as long as it doesn't ruin like a play experience, I'm cool with letting it happen. Occasionally, you'll get these connections to other rooms that normally wouldn't have happened, which I think is cool. But a lot of times they're just dead ends, so no worries there. Um, So our mods for says this is interesting to hear about. Okay, cool. Yeah, hopefully my ramblings about um, how we develop software and how I go about making things is of use to you folks. Crap. Um, I guess I was just outside his aggro range. Let me try to lure him on the trap. There we go. Smack him back. See if I can kite him a little bit and make him kill himself on the trap. There we go. All right. Yeah, I'm glad you guys find this stuff interesting, and hopefully this is I mean, that's hopefully the audience I'm shooting for are folks who are a little bit more interested in game design and development. Um, and you know, my focus is on art and content creation, so I get a lot of modders also who come to my stream. So we tried to make the game as moddable as possible and as mod friendly, and folks seem to be really liking that, and we're going to continue to support that. Yeah, this is one of the spike trap rooms that's created by the room decorator system. And this is just a predefined pattern that you can plop in whenever it feels like throwing this at me. I'm going to try to see which way I need to go. So it looks like this might be a four-way intersection. There's a candle over there. Crap! Oh, man. Oh, Joshua. It's not good. Not good. Okay, so so that was a crumbling floor trap that I put in um, a while back, and I thought these are going to be way too obvious. Nobody's going to fall for them, and I find myself falling for them all the time because I guess I don't know, uh, I'm not paying close enough attention. So this is what I'm talking about. So this coming up here is a room builder room and I can tell because we have this crazy lava wall here, which I personally wouldn't have made, but I think it's interesting. So, oh, whoa, okay, yeah, and unfortunately, sometimes the room builder rooms tend to be a little bit more on the narrow side, which can be bad. But I mean, also it forces you into confrontations that you might not actually have been in. Um, ooh, okay, so here's a very old wall texture that I need to hunt down and remove, because this is what the entire level looked like before I started doing new textures. So I need to figure out where that's coming from and fix it. Note to self. Um, So uh, Gui 2203 says, "Do I have any more ideas for the ruins?" Um, yeah, I would like to add maybe one or two more uh, enemies. I think that would help a lot because right now one of the problems we have with the ruins is there are four different kinds of enemies. There's a skeleton mage. There's two variants of the skeleton warriors, but they look exactly alike, so you can't tell any difference other than they have some slight stat tweaks. And then there is this floating skull guy I just killed. So there's four enemies. So what happens is when we go to randomly pick an enemy, it just pulls from that slot. So you have a 50% chance of getting a skeleton warrior, which is okay. But you have a 25% chance of actually getting a skeleton mage. And I think that's a little high. Skeleton mages are pretty lethal, and I would rather spawn them in um, with less frequency. So just simply by adding two new enemies to the area, it would drop the percentage chance of them actually being created. Now that still means you could get a swarm of them, but it would mean it's less likely. And this is just the kind of the nature of the game with procedural generation is kind of understanding how your systems work and trying to get them into a good state. Like you can't totally predict them, but you can try to wrangle them into a shape that's decent. Okay, so here's an end tile. Let's see if I can smack it into the lava. Yeah, this is another thing. Whoa. This is another thing too. Is there was a recent forum post or a thread on the Steam forums talking about somebody's weapon preference, and they said that um, ranged and light weapons was the only way to go, which I find interesting because I almost exclusively play with maces and hammers because I like to be able to control like where my enemies go. And as you saw when I hit that guy, he like the knockback was so extreme that he flew across that gap and landed over there, which is probably a bit much, but I think it's cool. So I was worried that the maces and hammers were overpowered, but according to this person on the forum thread, they think that the opposite is true. That they think these are worthless and they rather use the light weapons. So that's cool that we have varying opinions. And when I think when people are passionate about what they use, I think it's a good sign. Um, I mean, I could be biased, and if I'm incorrect, please let me know. But I think having these sorts of these differentiators is good. Um, and some things are we don't really explain much. Like for each weapon, you can do a light attack, which is just you tap the button and you get a quick swing. And you also do a wind-up attack where you hold it back and you do a different kind of swing. And this actually changes with each weapon. Like they also have a different attack timing and profiles. So if I go back to this dagger here, like if I do a light attack, it's a quick poke. But if I wind up, it's a swipe. And um, so the timing is different. But also how we calculate damage is we see this range up here, 6 to 10. So if you just barely tap it, you're going to do the low end of that. So a quick tap will probably do 6. And if I wind up all the way, that should do 10. And then if you go somewhere in between, it should it'll pick the nearest value of damage to inflict. So which is why like for some things like these daggers, if you're doing a bunch of light attacks, you're only really inflicting minimal damage, um, which can be a good strategy if you're just trying to finish off somebody. Um, Let me see. Wait, so our mods four says, is there a subreddit for the game? To be honest, I don't know. I don't use Reddit at all. So there might be. I have no idea what's on it. Um, so this is not an exit, so I need to keep exploring. So part of my beginning to stream was an attempt to reach out to the community to let them know that the project is still being developed and that I do want your folks' input and I actually want to take action on that input. So like earlier in the stream, I showed you that I actually do keep a list of all the bugs that were reported and I'm trying to follow up with you as we fix them. Um, but so right now, I check the Steam forums, and you guys can tweet me directly, and you can also email me. And those are the best ways to get a hold of me because like I don't have time. Well, my time is spent mostly making art, right? So any time I have to spend, perusing other forums is, more time away from getting work done. I mean, so listening to the community and implementing guys' feedback is very important, and I will continue to do that. But I can't. I just have to be kind of strategic on which areas I actually visit. Um, and again, because we're just a two-man team, like we don't have a budget and we don't have any time, right? So I can't afford to hire a community manager to take care of these things for me, which would be great, but um, I don't want to bring somebody on the team if we can't compensate them for their work. I wonder, so I just knocked that skeleton onto that falling floor trap, and right now the falling floor traps only trigger if a player touches them. What are you guys' thoughts on using the mace to push them on that to trigger it? Is that something that we should enable? Because I mean, I could flip that flag and make it happen. Okay, so I see that I put that column there on purpose, just for that explicit purpose of having a little bit of what I call like visibility blocking, or like you want to prevent long lines of sight because enemies will snipe you. So having a little bit of cover to work with actually, I think, improves the gameplay, because otherwise I wouldn't have had many options, because the magic spell moves pretty quick, and there's a chance that I can't dodge it if I don't see it early enough. Um, and then this is the second ruins level. Um, and again, it's very similar. I mean, it's just gonna be this is procedurally generated. We're gonna have new stuff popping up, but the content's gonna be kind of the same stuff with the different areas and the same enemies. So I think I'm gonna probably call it good here and maybe try to do a little bit of work. Uh, so Griver84 says, of all of us that grew up together, I figured out I would have been the Reddit user. What does that mean? And also, who is Griver84? We grew up together and they're a couple of years younger than me. I'm not sure who. Please identify yourself. Sorry, I don't know your Twitch handle offhand. So Tesla Coil is saying there is a subreddit, but it's pretty quiet. Most communications happen on the Steam forum. And yeah, that's where I focus a lot of my attention on the Steam forums, just because that's like the most direct place where a lot of folks will buy the game, and then they leave me their feedback there. And I appreciate quality feedback. Like, I mean, there are a lot of folks who don't like the game, and that's fine. The game isn't for everybody. It's kind of this weird, like, casual roguelike thing where a lot of roguelike fans want crazy depth, and a lot of casual players, this game's a little bit on the hard side for. So we're walking an interesting line, and for a lot of folks, they seem to be enjoying it. So I think as long as more folks like it than hate it, then I'm kind of okay. I'd, you know, I'm just trying to make the best game I can, and I think I'm relatively successful. So what to work on? So you know, that's the interesting part of starting a new update is like we want to focus on UI and particles. I don't have a lot of like things really like in my mind solidified yet, like as what I should be working on. I can look at my list of things I said, like features I said I was going to work on. So let's go back to this issues page and for this update. And there's a bug here I was assigned myself. Uh, Something about these guys aren't spawning correctly. Um, I told some folks in the forums I do a improve HD texture support. I'm just going to do investigation and see what's up with that. And there's this improve overall VFX particle effects, which is kind of broad, right? I really ought to at some point define a list of things I want to do. Like this kind of covers like improving like flame effects, but also it covers improving like magic effects. Like right now, all the magic stuff looks pretty samey. I want to make it look different. I want to make it feel different. So I'll try. See, one of the things I was disappointed about is I made this cool torch animation that didn't actually get shipped. Um, so let me fire up Pixel Edit here. This is the program that I just happened to be using to animate with. It's a pretty cool tool. Let me see recent documents. Yeah. Let me make this big. So I have this really cool torch I made for the new area, but the way our torch code works, I couldn't actually use it, which is a bummer. You know, I spent some time working on it, and it just didn't pan out. Um, so to kind of recover from that, and so this wasn't totally wasted work, what I did is um, basically I doubled the size of it and I cleaned it up so I could use it for the braziers because they're not because the torch system is special, whereas the braziers they're just a normal game object, and I can just kind of construct those and place those how I like. But the torches kind of have a special rule to them, so this stuff wouldn't work with them. But I think what I want to do is maybe make a flame particle effect that I can attach to the torch that would kind of look similar. So I think I'll give that a shot. So I'm going to be working on doing some pixel art like animation. Just to give you guys a fair warning, this is not my strong suit, so please bear with me as I kind of like brute force my way through animation. Oh, Chris Dunn. Yeah, hey Chris, thanks for popping by. I appreciate that. I am Wibbly says, yeah, he thinks the enemies should trigger traps. Thinks the interacting between the world always feel good in the game. Um, so the enemies actually do. He was saying he thought it'd be a good idea for the enemies to wander and trigger stuff randomly, and they can. Um, so again we have these again weird systems. So the spike traps are traps, and the enemies will walk over them. But my falling floor trap, it's technically an elevator. What I did is basically an elevator that when you step on it, it falls away from you and just doesn't return. Which I thought, you know, it was an interesting way to kind of use a system that we have built for a different purpose. But unfortunately, the AI logic is such that they won't walk over those. I don't know why, because they'll move over other bits of geo, but they won't move over elevators. Um, so da 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 da. A white sarcophagus says, well, why couldn't I put the torch as it was? So how the torch works as it is currently, it's hardwired. It looks at the animation you gave it. It will pick a random frame. It will show that random frame for a random amount of time, and then it picks another frame. So the fire just looked all crazy. And initially it was only wired, it was only designed for 2 frames, and it just wasn't behaving correct. It looked really bad. So I just went with a more like old school approach, which isn't great. I'll show you what it looks like. Import tiled images. Let's look at repositories, GitHub, Delver. Go to our assets folder, and in textures, Temple, that's a new area. If you look at sprites, um, yeah, I just went with the very basic. Let me add an animation so you can see what it looks like. Um, it is Yeah, so basically it does this, but this program assumes it's each frame is for a uniform amount of time, whereas in the Delver engine currently it looks something like this, where it'll pick a frame, show it for a little bit, pick a different frame, and it just kind of does that, which is okay. Which for our initial implementation worked really well because um, our focus was on just getting content in there and getting the game actually running. And now that we're way past that. Right now, I think we have a good loop as far as like the number of levels I want to have. The levels are kind of bare still. I want to up the content inside those levels a little bit, but I don't know if I really want to add too many more levels. I think I want to keep it around, like if you know what you're doing, maybe an hour's worth of play. I just I don't think we have the capacity with our team as it is right now to do like any longer of a game. And I don't want to artificially bloat it. Like I could just say like every theme has 10 levels to it, so it's 40 levels long. But that just seems like uninteresting, and I want to be respectful of your time as a player. So I want to try to give you a varied, dense experience rather than this kind of this long, samey one. Um, Phildo Baggins says, "I've been waiting for the stream to. I've been wanting to stream the new update, but Shadowplay has been being dumb. Keep up the good work, Lowe's game." Yeah, no, that's it's really awesome if you guys want to stream the game yourselves. Like streamers have been really, really kind to us, simply because the game is procedural in nature. It works really well for Let's Plays because it's different every time a streamer plays it. And when folks buy it, they also get a different experience. I mean, some things may happen the same, but other things may happen radically different. That's kind of the fun of it. Chris is saying he see me in a different stream every once in a while, but he didn't know I streamed. Yeah, I've been streaming since the end of July every Sunday at noon Pacific time. I've been pretty good about that. I haven't missed one yet, though I have had to reschedule a few like earlier or later, depending upon real life concerns. But I'm gonna go ahead and start animating this thing, and it's gonna be terrible, but we'll see. Uh, I just gotta do it, right? Like I can't sit back and wait for inspiration. I just have to start throwing paint on the canvas and then fixing it as I see stuff is wrong. So it was in textures, temple particles. Okay, so this is the actual animation for uh, the flame uh, as it is. So it looks something like that, which is pretty cool. Let me slow it down a little bit so it's maybe a little bit more digestible. There we go. So I want to just keep on adding to this, but I'm not creating. So I want to create. I'm not sure what they're called. Uh, sorry for all the ums and ahs. Like I'm trying to be better about that, but today I'm really being bad about it. But these little flyaways, I'm not sure what they're called. I'm gonna call them flyaways. So the little bits of flame that kind of rise up. Right now, as you can see, they're drawn and they're basically like static. It's always going to be the same pattern over and over again. So I want to add some particle systems that come off of the flame that add some variety to it. So what I think I'll do is I'll just start working here and see where we go. So I'll probably do a few animations, try to get it looping like I like. I'll hop over to the engine and see what it looks like and see. We'll try to work back and forth that way until we get a good result. Um, yeah, Chris is suggesting wisps of flame. Yeah, I like you would think like with the English language we love defining things, and um, like I figured like the very like the hot spot of the flame would have a specific name, but I couldn't find one. So yeah, I just had to kind of just make up little names for it. So let's start drawing. So what I think I want to do um, is I want to have two particle variations because if you notice, so what happens is I'll step through this animation here is um, so as the flame right this frame here as it flicks to one side, what it's doing is it's kind of throwing off that little wisp, right? So it's kind of going off to the right here. Uh, this pocket. So what I was talking about is drawing the negative space. So there's this pocket of air going into the flame that will make this wisp, and that pocket of air should push the wisp away. So I've kind of in my mind, I'm thinking about when I animate fire, like animating the air pushing the fire around as well as the flame itself, which is kind of an interesting way to think about it. So what I want is to have something kind of like this, but I want but the thing is it the shape of it actually implies direction, right? So the ones that are thrown off on the right versus the left look a little bit different. So I might create two variations just to see how things look. But I'll start with one, and then we'll go from there. Okay. I'm not even really sure how big I want this to be either. It's kind of it's another thing to be figured out, like a TBD. Actually, let me just go ahead and create a new animation so I can actually work in the little big screen down there. So length 1 and start frame. There we go. And let's make it length 2 for the, well, that's like seizure inducing. So let me just clean this up. I think I want it to look something kind of like this, and then it should get smaller kind of as it goes up. So let me just go ahead and save this just as a, let's see, can I just save it as an image? Yep. Repositories, GitHub, Delver, go to my assets folder, textures, temple. Why is it not wanting? Okay, select folder, and this is ping, and this is particles, I think is what I called it. Ping, save. Yes, I want to overwrite it. Let's go over here and hop into the editor. And I'm just going to quickly wire up a particle emitter using this texture and see what it looks like. Phildo Baggins says, maybe add the option for players to select how long their experience is. I'd love to be able to have some longer runs every now and then. Can you go into depth a little bit more about that? Like I know some roguelikes allow you to basically continue going after you beat the game. Is that what you mean, or can you clarify, please? So what I'm just going to do real quick is I'm just going to add this that brazier thing, and I'm just going to strip out. I don't need the mesh. Let's just plop this on the floor because that's fine. The light's fine, I guess. I'll just move it over here. And the particle systems, where'd they go? Oh, they're over here. Don't care about the audio source. Let me grab these guys. Actually, I just need one of them for now. And let's get this guy aligned. And put it reasonably close to the flame. And then I need to, so let me see. Starts immediately. It is a particle. That seems right. I might play around with this to see what that does, but okay, so texture is, I'm just trying to figure out, like, because particles kind of do animations differently than other animated objects. So particle start text is 0, particle end text is 0. I wonder if this might be hardwired to only pull from the main particle sprite sheet and not actually this new one that I created. But let me pick that. And this should be texture, I think 16. Let me look here. No, 9, I think. So, yeah, so there's 8 frames, so that's 0 through 7. So this is actually 8. So if I put the start text at 8 and the end text at 8, let me see if that actually works correctly. No, I think unfortunately they might be hardwired to. Actually, I can't even see it. Maybe it's just moving so fast. Let me give myself some vertical room to actually see what this emitter is doing. Yeah, so there it goes. So if I change that back, so it was, yeah, so yeah, even though this texture sheet says um, simple particles, it's still pulling from the particles sheet. So let me see if I change the type from particle to sprite. Does that change how it renders? No. Wait, did it? Kind of? What is that throwing up? It looks like a leaf. I'm not sure what's going on there. uh, um, also, let's see. Particles should be full bright because this is fire, and fire shouldn't receive shading. Strange. Yeah, I'm not sure if that's really doing what I think it's going to do. Hmm. Yeah, so part of the work of this, yeah. So part of the work of this development update is to improve how our particle systems work. So maybe some of the work I'm doing today is investigating some of the enhancements that the Chad can help me out with. Because Chad is the other half of Delaware. He does a lot of the programming, all the programming actually. I try to stay away from that, and business and other things like that. Um, uh, Pertev Gap says my internet isn't good enough for me to watch the stream on source quality. So if you are worried if the stream isn't working out great for you, I do archive all of my development streams on YouTube. Um, so the link should be in my info, and you can look at all the past development streams if that's something you're interested in. Voom is asking, Joshua, did you go to school for coding / game making? Uh, yes. I went to school for software engineering, um, and not specifically game making, just software engineering in general. Like I was super passionate about video games and art, but I guess being pragmatic, I figured uh, that computer science basically is a good fallback, right? So if the whole video game thing doesn't work out, I can actually just be an engineer somewhere. And to be honest with you, for the past 5 years, I have been a professional engineer for Lexmark, and then after that, I was an engineer for Microsoft. So two big corporations. I don't. I'm no longer a professional engineer. Right now, I'm a stay-at-home father, so this has been an interesting change of pace for me. But yeah, so that's kind of my background. Uh, Again, I'm trying to make this thing do what I want. So it looks like I'm going to have to use the default particles for now until I can actually uh, get until the changes come online, and then maybe I can move these out to their own sheet. So these should live here in particles, and I did not do that right. Let me try that again. So file, import, tiled image, assets, particles. Every image is 32 by 32. Import. So here you can see some of just the very basic particle effects we have currently, and they work. They're not great, but they work okay. So and I'm just gonna pick a spot where I think I have room to work, and I'm just gonna maybe at the bottom here. I'll just put my little flame, and then just so I have room to build across. So uh, let me just add an animation again so I can see what I'm working on. Base tile. Nope, that went fast. I really should have just counted it out, but whatever. Yeah, you can see all the different things we use particle effects for. There we go. So and the length right now is just 1. Nope. There we go. Okay. So I'm just gonna try to get this working and looking interesting, and then I will maybe add a few more frames. Okay, so let's save this real quick and just see if I can make it look okay. Save. No, sorry. Export. Because this program works best with like game style images. So they like things are tiled. Um, it comes from the old days of consoles where you had very limited graphics memory, so you had to build everything out of tiles, and this works great for that. And I just have to make sure that I guess I have to recall that if I want to actually save it, I have to export it, not actually just save it. So this is simple. I can't do that there. I need to do just in assets, and this is particles. Save. Yep. Replace. Go back here. I can't remember if I thought going into play mode should refresh this stuff. This set was particle 50. I think this animation set was particle 54. 56. So let's just try that. So here, start text is 56. The end text is 56. And see what that looks like. Okay. So it looks like I have to. I thought there was a way to reload all the assets in the level, and I'm sure Chad will tell me after the stream because he watches my archives. But I'll just quickly just do this over again. Boom is asking for how many years of schooling did I do? um, I ended up going to a 4-year school, but it took me longer than 4 years to get my degree because I screwed around and I didn't take the first year or two seriously. So yeah, I just did a traditional 4-year program for computer science. Yeah, that's another interesting thing too. For those of you who are familiar with Twitch, they recently so I right now I'm broadcasting on the creative channel, which is really cool that they support people's creative endeavors. And lately they have broadened that out to adding a programming um, like channel, I guess, we're part of creative, which is really cool. I'm glad that they're supporting programming because I didn't think, I don't know, I'm just fascinated that people are actually interested in watching other folks program because I think that's pretty dry. Let's see if this is doing the correct thing now. Yep, so that's launching those out. I think they're still shaded, but I'm really glad that Twitch did that. And I might actually try doing some programming in the future on some other project, because right now my kind of my role on the Delver project is art. So let me see. Yeah, start, end, art type, scale, scale. So I don't want, so it is, suppose that particle is Fulbright. I don't want it to scale. I want my animation to not scale. Well, I could do a scale. I could do like 0, right? I would scale it down to 0. And so these launch up. So I think they live way too long. So let's tweak the lifetime value on this particle. Okay, so 65. Let's quarter it. So let's say 15. And see what that looks like. Okay, and then if I if I lower the spawn interval, we should get more. So if I have it, we should get twice as many particles being created. Okay, that looks interesting. Are the particles flipping? I'm trying to figure it out. So right now they're an S shape. Okay, I don't think they're flipping. I think it's just the same. So for some odd reason, I think the lighting just looks different. Like they're supposedly they're the same shade of orange. It's just they look different, and I'm not sure why. Okay. Hmm. Again, I'm gonna probably make them live even less. this is going to be me fiddling with properties until I think it looks interesting. So Chris from New Zealand said he slept through the alarm. Yeah, no worries, man. Like I appreciate you actually take the time to out of your day to watch me stream when we're so far apart as far as relative times. So yeah, so I did a little retrospective on the last update, and now I'm working on just playing around with particle systems for the fire, trying to improve some of the overall visual effects for this next upcoming update. So that's. I think I want to move like I want to tweak their vertical speed. So there's particle velocity in the z. Let's double it. So that's 0.7. So that means I mean probably since they're going twice as fast, I need to play with their life again, right? So again, lifetime is 5. It's still too much. So I think there's a variance on their random lifetime. So I'm going to make that 0. I want no variance right now because I'm trying to make it feel correct. So see, that's where I was getting the issues from. So that's too fast, I think. Yeah, it just flicks on there real quick. We try. Again, if I lower the spawn interval, I'm trying to get more than one of these to appear at a time. Yeah. I think there's also just an option to say number of particles. Yeah, spawn counts. Let's make that 3. It could be that my initial texture is too big. I can ballpark it just by making it smaller here. I probably want. I like to have all the pixels be roughly the same size, so I might tweak this at the end. Yeah, now that's too fast. So I'm trying to add some variance to the flame to actually make it look a little bit nicer and not as predictable. Yeah, maybe making this velocity smaller is better, so it's not as fast. I just don't want them to hang out. Going halfway between 5 and 10. That's looking more correct. I might need to widen out where they actually spawn. The spread, I think, is, if I change that maybe to 0.4 and 0.4, so I change where they spawn left to right, that's too much. Also, you probably need to move this down a bit. So it looks like actually it's coming out of the fire. Yeah, the colors are still off too. I'm not sure what's up with that. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not feeling this right now. Like maybe the particle system isn't quite where I'd want it to be. Let me see. WS Freak, so that's a nice editor we have there. Yeah, so the engine and editor are both custom built, which is good in some ways and it's bad in some ways because it means a lot of work. And if we only use it for so if we use it for 2 projects that kind of, so it makes it an easier case to build your own engine if you're using it for multiple projects, and that would be cool. And I think that's what we ought to do, but I'm just not sure, yeah, if that's going to happen or not. So Dr. Kegel says they fade too fast in comparison to the vertical velocity, which makes them look like they fly away from the camera. Yeah, this is all just very prototypey stuff, trying to see so we're working on, so I'm doing investigations into the particle system to see what enhancements I would like, so I can request those from Chad, so then I can go back and make better particles. And right now it looks like, again, like the Fulbright isn't correct unless I have the wrong colors, but I'm pretty sure I grabbed the right color. I'm pretty sure that's correct. So if I I should have the other one here. If I just color pick it, where's my color picker there? So I color pick that. I'm so certain that's the right one. That's the right color. If I just go and I draw here, yeah, it's the correct color. It's just something's wrong with the rendering. Okay. Not feeling it. I'm not sure if I should keep fiddling with this or if I should actually move on to other stuff. So if this is like terribly, terribly boring, please let me know. And then now I can probably go back in and add the lifetime variation so they actually they don't always die off at the same spot. Maybe add a lot of lifetime variation. I think I'm getting too many particles there, so bump that down a little bit. Like I'm gonna lean back and squint my eyes. And if the colors match better, I think it would look cooler. Yeah, let me see if I can. So if I turn off full bright on the sprite here, so this should be full bright. If I turn that off, do they match? Is my question. No, so I'm not sure where it's getting its colors from. So yeah, squinting my eyes is actually looking okay. Like from. And also maybe if I. Okay, so particle start scale. Bump that up a little bit. Again, it could be so cool if the colors just matched, because if the colors match, then all of a sudden you can't pick them out, and I think the effect would look really, really interesting. But I'll keep. I think I'm actually. It's like I kind of do this a lot when I work. Is I get to this point where like I get some stuff on Canvas. I'm like, okay, let's fix this and make it better. And I enter this period of development where I'm like, this is awful. I want to throw it all away. And sometimes maybe that is the right move, but sometimes maybe it's just better just to stick with it, you know. And yes. So what was happening is, if you didn't catch that, so we have this thing called particle color. And since I made see, if you look at the particle sheet, a lot of these particles, not all of them, but a lot of them are uh, just white. They are grayscale. And in Engine, we multiply the particle color by that to actually get tinted particles. So what it was is it was multiplying the already orange particle by another orange, and you get a darker orange. Because because if you multiply any two values less than one, it's always going to be the values are always going to get smaller. So this is my stuff now. This is getting into good territory. Um, so Phil says throw some blackish particles in there as well. So yeah, so the original effect was like I'd have some sparks rising up, and occasionally one would shoot off to the side. Because if you ever sat by a campfire, you've surely been the poor victim of like this random pop that throws an ember like right in your lap, and you're like, oh, and you're jumping around. So I kind of wanted to show that. So I'll probably still keep that in, but right now I'm just trying to add some variation to the flame to make it look more interesting and less like the handmade part I think looks cool, but I'm just trying to tweak this to actually really make it shine. Okay, so I want to play with the lifetime because right now they all die off roughly at the same spot. So I think adding again more variance to the lifetime makes the pattern they create different. And also I want them to stick more towards the center. So I think with a is there a so with a spread I want to make the spread smaller, but can I make the spread so I can't randomize the spread, it looks like. I can only randomize the velocity, which is probably a good thing. I can 0, 0. So real quick, let me just pull open my calculator. And right now I got 0.0125. So if I could add or subtract roughly half of that, so it should be 0.0625. Yep. That's right. So let me copy that. And I should be able to paste that. 0.00625. That's cool. Do I want? I don't know if I want. I don't know if I want actually any X or Y. I want them to go straight up for the most part. Maybe a little variation wasn't a bad idea. So I'm trying to get most of them to spawn in the middle. Um, so you get kind of a semi-conical, like a fire shape is what I'm going for. And I'm just gonna keep tweaking and keep talking about my thoughts on how to make this particle system bend to my will. Because as you can see, there are just so many like little, like each of these is a property I can tweak. So there's all these little knobs I'm trying to slowly twist and tweak until I get a result that I think is good. Okay, so that is looking better. I want to. So actually, I'm concerned now that these aren't actually lined up. Like if I select this and move it, I think actually it's not there. So let me move this all the way down. I'm trying to get this where they actually line up. Um, so right. Oh man. So this is actually too low. Yeah, because also like if they're not at the same spot relative to each other, then a lot of these things I'm doing might not work out so great. So they should be directly on top of each other now, which makes them hard to select, but it should make like the things I'm doing better as far as like trying to figure out a good variety of things. Okay, that's cool. I probably want to pull it down a touch. So I want them really to kind of start inside the fire itself. And so I don't, because right now you can see them, they're kind of popping into existence. So I could also, instead of doing that, I could just bump them down negative here. Minus 0.1. Does that make them spawn lower? So just try moving them down, see what that does. That's too far. They're starting to occlude, they're starting to show up on top of the yellow, which is not what I want. I want them to start definitely in the orange, but like to the point where you can't really detect what's going on. Okay. Looking better. Again, I'm just squinting. I think there might be too many. So let me drop that down to 2. So right there's anywhere between 2 and 4 being spawned. Maybe try playing with the frequency. The spawn interval up to 20. If I get this working right, actually, I think I might completely get rid of those little flyaways that I have kind of pre-baked into the animation, and just have these particles kind of do that on their own. So that's looking better. I mean, it's one of those things too. Is like because I know the trick of what I'm doing, I have a hard time thinking it's good. So it's hard for me to stay objective sometimes because I think like if I squint and look at it, it looks pretty interesting. Um, but like in my heart, I know what's really going on. I'm like, it's not that interesting. So I need to like try to figure out why I'm not liking it, and then um, fix it. Right. That's the hard thing with art is like a lot of us have this really kind of innate instinct as to like what's good and what's bad, but being able to actually realize what is bad and then like effectively communicate that is hard, and that's why like art critique and feedback is a hard thing to do. Chris is saying, is there some way to fade them out? Yeah, I think so. I think I can say there's an alpha thing too. So maybe instead of scaling down, I can do alpha. Let me see. Actually, maybe not. It looks like we don't support alpha at this point in time. That might be something to ask Chad to do because I think yeah with alpha. So basically, the alpha is um, the technical term for transparency. So an alpha of one means you can see it, and an alpha of zero means it's totally transparent, and then you have a nice gradation between the two. So what would be cool is if I could start with an alpha of one, and as the particles get older towards the end of their life, um, they would fade out. But right now, I'm just having them scale down to something smaller. Like I could have the particles scale down to zero, which would kind of look like they're going away. Because right now they kind of just pop out, which isn't the worst. But I'm just worried about like I want to maintain the same, like roughly the same pixel size. So that's where I want to actually use the animation itself and not just static particles. Um, so if I want to maintain the same pixel size, I need to do this, where they're actually being displayed at 1.0 scale. And looking at that, they're way too big, right? So, um, okay, so I don't want to lose my work. So let's just really quickly, let's just save this scene. And also, this is a known issue on the Delver editor in Windows. Is I hit File Save, it looks like it's not responding. What it's doing is it popped open a modal dialog behind the app. Like for some odd reason, this UI framework we're using in Java, this is just a known bug, and we haven't figured out a good way to fix it yet. And it's been around for a while. So if any of you folks are uh, Java gurus, and you know something that we don't, please get in touch. Or if you want to get in touch with me in general, you could just drop me a line on Twitter. I'm at Joshua Skelly on Twitter, or you could email me directly, joshua.skelton@gmail.com. And any sort of feedback is great. It could be about the game, it could be questions, it could be about the stream itself, it could be about game development or art. I'm a pretty open book. But I want to save this level so I don't have to, because I don't want to lose all these tweaks to this particle emitter we made. So eventually I want to get the particle emitter emitting correctly, and then we're going to make that into a prefab, which is something that we can just continually create over and over again in the engine. So I'm just going to say this is a fire particles, for lack of a better word. So save that out. Make sure that it did save. Yep, so it's a new change in my source control. So I can close that out, and I'm going to just go over here real quick and just make this smaller. So I think I'm just going to get rid of that, get rid of that, like that. So maybe this is the correct size. Save, overwrite, yep. Let's go back to the editor. Let's fire it up and open up our test level. Again, Alt-Tab to get there. And I called it fire particles. Let's open that. Oh no! Why did you not open? Did I do something wrong? Let me see. So I think what I'm thinking may have happened is I didn't give it a file extension. And if it doesn't have the file extension, it might not open it up correctly. So yeah, so these are all file, like these all have the .bin format. Also, Delver supports. Let me see if I can find an older one. So these are .dat. So there are two room formats. So this .dat is actually a JSON-based format. So you can actually open up a .dat file with a text editor, and you can actually edit the levels yourselves manually, which is not great, but it can be done. And this .bin is a binary format, so it's not human readable. So I just need to rename this, I believe .bin. I think that's the default. Um, and loading the binary is a little bit faster than the .dat because the .dat has to read all the text in that's human readable, and then it has to process it into the in-memory format for the computer to use, whereas the binary skips that processing step and just goes right to something that's usable. So let's try this again. File, nope, not new. File open, open that, and then file particles open. Yes, all right, see. Okay, so let's just see what it looks like now with a little bit smaller particles. Yeah, I think that's looking okay. Again, squinting, making sure it looks all right. Yeah. So I want to like hand animate the particle I don't want to add too much motion to the wisp because like if I were adding motion, then they should only spawn on one side of the fire and not the other. Uh, and because I can walk around this in the so I don't know I want to avoid directionality in motion as much as possible so that it looks correct from as many angles as possible. I think I just that was a big mouthful. Squint, it's looking better. I think I kind of want them to fade away like the other ones do. I'm not sure how many frames that's going to take. So let's try 4. Um, and one enhancement I want to make to the particle system is right now, the particle animation is a function of its lifetime. So um, basically, like normal animations, like for example, the fire itself just plays on a loop, and you know basically I think each frame is roughly like just one frame of the draw call, so it's like roughly 16 milliseconds, maybe 30 milliseconds. I forget. I think I may have specified what it is. Uh, so the animation speed, yeah. So every frame is 25 milliseconds, and then it goes to the next frame. It just repeats forever. Versus the particle system, what it does is it looks at how many frames there are, and it looks at how long the particle is going to be alive, and then just evenly distributes the frames. So for some things, for example, the biggest culprit that I kind of makes my skin crawl is in the start area. We have these really cool trees, and they drop leaves, but the leaf particle should really do this little flip animation. But instead, what it does is it does this very slow, gentle rock. Uh, and I'd really love it just to loop, but right now our particle system doesn't enable that. So I have to be kind of careful. I have to keep in mind right now the particle lifetime when doing this animation. And maybe that's something I'd like for us to improve. So, all right, we want this to be a 4-frame animation. So I will go over here and I will say this is length 4. And I'm going to just copy this over. And I kind of want to just have it just kind of pop out of existence, this is going to be a really easy animation. I'm just going to remove, um, stuff from it to make it smaller. Okay. I kind of want to, I guess I kind of want to like echo what the, so this, so it also looks like it, so that's not quite right. So I want to, maybe I just, I said I don't want to have much motion, but maybe a little bit of motion wouldn't be bad. So it looks like it's, so I'm just trying to visualize like what this would look like as it, um, so these should slide back. So I don't want it to change mass too much. And right now, this one frame, it's changing too much mass. So I have to be careful about that. So I want it to feel like it's kind of rotating a little bit. Does that even make sense? This. So it's a pretty big jump right there. I'm trying not to have it move too many pixels at any given frame, so it looks smoother. Again, I'm still like I'm an animation baby, so I apologize if like there are better animators who are just like their skin is crawling watching me do this. Also, can I shrink the size a little bit? That makes no sense whatsoever. Because I basically what I'd like it to do is to like rotate and scale in. Now, I could for this frame just rotate it a little bit and clean it up, which is a thing I could do, I suppose. Yeah, it's not like I don't know, like the results my mileage may vary using this route. I know some folks who can make good animations this way. We'll see. So this, I'll just make a selection. Rotate it. Actually, be really careful with my selection. Just get this guy. I'm not sure why Pixel Edit doesn't show like the marching ants after I make a selection. It's only when I do the transform that it actually seems to really do anything. Okay, so that's what it's wanting to look like. Does that even make sense? Um, Let me see. Looking back at chat, it says, yeah. So he thinks the straightforward movement of the particles does not match the almost dancing animation of the fire, which is true. I think if I combine them though, hopefully it'll give the illusion of a more complex fire than it actually is. Um, Chris says maybe not alpha, but you can shrink them over time. Yep, yep. Yep. More talk about alpha. Phildo Baggins says make a fade up into embers. Chris from New Zealand says, yeah, you could animate the particle sprite, make it fade to black or gray. So I'm really leery about color change right now. I want them to actually blend well together so it looks like it's one crazy seamless animation and not a series of different ones. Um, so Dr. Kegel saying, can I use discrete steps for scale? No, I think it's float. It's just based on like lifetime. So I can't use discrete steps, no. Voom says, Joshua Skelly, have you ever played the game Eldritch before? Yes, I have played the game Eldritch, and I love Eldritch. It's an amazing game, and I have actually been fortunate enough to have had lunch with the creator of Eldritch once before, and it was a really interesting lunch because there were several of us procedural first-person folks at this lunch, and we got to kind of talk shop, which is really cool. Because we're all solving similar problems in different ways, and it's just kind of fascinating to hear everybody's take on it. Um, so Chris is saying fade to gray, but they can look like smoke. We'll have to stay around for a while. Yeah. So another thing what I can do is also I can have multiple emitters, right? I can have one emitter that does these kind of flame-looking things. And I can add another emitter that does the smoke-looking things, and I can just offset them on the Z, and just they won't be timed up perfectly, but again, it's just a little bit of sleight of hand, and it could actually work depending upon you know, just how all these little things are tweaked. I think I want to add one more frame of animation and just make it even just a tiny bit smaller because I want it to almost wink out. But because right now this is going to be kind of a bit of a big jump, so I want to. Uh, maybe also I do want to continue the motion too. So that's something I need to think about. Is this kind of is implying that it's turning, so I want to maybe just keep running with that. So this way, this way. Uh, so that almost should be like that, I think. Or actually, yeah, just these 45s are kind of tricky to do, where things just look goofy, I think. Again, this is my um, lack of experience as an animator. I'm just trying to smooth this out a little bit, but I don't want to I don't want to change the mass too much. I want the mass to keep getting smaller as it rotates around. So I think that is kind of working okay. See, that's maintaining mass, and it's not what I want. And this one should just be like just like a little tiny blip right before it winks out. So okay, so let me file export, right? And then particles, save, overwrite, and then let's go back into our editor and see what it looks like. So my friend Rob, um, RK Fletch, we were roommates for um, the interesting years of my college experience. Let's just put it that way. And he's complaining about since I stream on Sunday that uh, I, I I am a I'm in direct conflict with the American football uh, basically holiday of the week. Um, which I'm sorry, Rob, for. I mean, you could do both, I suppose. I mean, there's lots of commercial breaks in NFL, and there aren't any commercial breaks on my stream, or there ought not to be. Um, are you folks actually getting advertisements on my stream? So I thought that was something I had to opt into. So if I am, please let me know. Okay, so I need to say, so this, so I need to correctly specify which frame to start to end at. So that's 56, 57, 58, 59, 60. So in texture is 60. And see what that looks like. Hmm. So it's definitely harder to see now. Let me pull it up a bit. Let me slow it down by making them live longer. Okay. Let me give them more spread on the Z. So let me think. Oh yeah, so Spooter W. So I believe that's Mike Malbec, who is another procedural first-person guy who's really talented. I think he worked on. Oh, I'm blanking, Mike. I'm sorry. You're working on something new, which also looks really cool. Um, Damn it, I'm really failing you right now, and I apologize. But yeah, it's another fellow developer who does really cool things with procedural stuff. Um, da, 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 da. Okay, cool. Yeah, and yeah. So again, this is another thing too with my stream. I don't play any music because I'm worried about like the whole DMCA stuff, like and them blocking out my audio, which is I think one of the so like watching me work and also my commentary on how I work and like how the engine works is I think a big valuable part of my streams. So I'm really leery about playing any sort of audio because I don't want my audio to be blocked out. And there are lots of, I guess, copyright free music stuff. I just really haven't taken the time to look into that yet. Right now, I'm trying to troubleshoot why this isn't quite looking the way I want it to. So make the particle random lifetime really huge. Nope, that's not it. Um, yeah, no, Mike is totally calling me out on my BS. I apologize. Like I could totally picture it in my brain. I just can't think of the name. I guess I am a monster. I'm just trying to think. Let me just Google it real quick. Da, 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 da. Paranautical activity. Damn it. Yeah, because I always get like heavy bullets, fancy skulls, paranautical activity. Um, and there are a few others out there too that I'll get like jumbled in my brain, and I'm really scary. I just don't want to like say the wrong one. Um, so yeah, that was kind of my hesitation there. I'm trying to figure out why these particles aren't doing what I want them to do. Particle spread. Really? A lot of spread on the Z? Is that what you want? Okay. Interesting. Do they need to live longer? Is that their problem? I mean, they do have an animation to play through now, so maybe that's what they. Okay, too long. 30. So yeah, so that's looking better, but the rent like I don't want them to pop in like I want them to pop in right around where the orange part of the flame is. So I'm just gonna keep tweaking that. So this particle spread should be much smaller. Okay, and they're still lining up too perfectly, and it's kind of breaking the illusion of what's actually happening. Particle random lifetime. If I make that insane, what happens? Nothing. Some should be living really long, and some should be not living very long. I'm not sure why that's not behaving like I think it ought. Is it something where like we have a fixed number of particles and we don't? Nope, that was not it either. Right now, I'm just playing with numbers, so I apologize if this is just like frustrating. Kind of looks interesting, but not quite what I'm going for. Oh, wrong way. 20. Better-ish. Again, maybe. Again, I'm trying to make the shape look right. and that's kind of hard to articulate why it doesn't look right. Like right now, I'm trying to widen it out a little bit so it's not so they're not all bunched together. Maybe just too many particles. That's looking. I think that's getting closer to what I want. Um, and it also could be that just that my animation is crap, and that's what's making it look bad too. That's also a definite possibility. Okay, I'll be back in one moment. Just a quick pause. Sorry, guys. There we go. Yeah, too much coffee. Sorry about that. It got to me. Usually I can last the whole 2 hours, but it snuck up on me. Oh, Chris is saying I have legs. Yeah, for most of these streams, I actually haven't seen anything more than like my chest up. Yeah, no, I'm a real human being. Dr. Kegel says the particle random lifetime is 1,000 is too high. So what that means is that should, but see, this should change how long they live, and it's not affecting that. Um, Unless he's implying that just that value so high it doesn't. Because see, that should mean that some go like way up high, and it's just not happening that way. Um, which is what I thought it ought to do. Because this particle lifetime is what we've been playing with to kind of change. Again, I mean, I've seen some people do some really cool stuff with like MIDI control devices where you can actually physically tweak stuff, and that would be awesome to do on the fly. Um, just something that right now I have to exit and then come back in and play around with. Maybe if I spread these out even more. Like I don't want them like I think the part of the problem too is they're kind of spawning at the same time, which kind of you can see what's happening there. So maybe if I widen out like when they spawn, that might be better. Um, can you guys not hear me? Is the okay? Chris is saying the mic is working. Okay. Yeah, again, just squinting and seeing what's happening. So so if I make the spread negative again, that should push them down lower, I think. Okay, that's looking a little bit better. So I try this one step at a time, like left to right. I think their width is okay. Like they're spawning and they're not like spawning outside of where the fire actually is, which I think is good. Because then it would look weird if they popped off to the left or right of the fire. So that's working. Um, Another thing that's kind of throwing me too is let me go ahead and erase let me fix this other fire animation has the little flyaways already built in. And that's distracting. Let me just let's do that real quick. I can just do it in Photoshop. I don't care about the end of how it looks. Um, da, 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 da. So the particle lifetime, it should add a random amount between 0 and 1,000 to it. So I need to talk to Chad and see if it's actually if that's how that's behaving or if I'm just making that up. But that's my thought on how it should behave was to add a random amount to the particle's lifetime. So real quick, I'm just going to go in here. I'm going to remove all these little use a big brush, these little flyaways because um, I'm just doing that with particles now. So let's save that. Before I lose my progress, let's just go ahead and file and save this so I can keep iterating on the same particle emitter because I think a lot of this work is going to be getting the particle emitter working just so. Okay, so I think I don't know. What do you guys think? With the flyaways or without the flyaways? I'm trying to figure it out. Maybe without. Um, I think that's okay. What else is bothering me about this? I'm trying to break it down like piece by piece so I can address what's I don't like about it. Um, yeah, I don't like the fact that they're always rotating in the same angle. I could duplicate the animation and flip it, and that may help. Okay, so it looks like he's saying that the animation looks better without the built-in flyaways and just having these guys um, do that instead, which I think is working out okay. Let me make the variation on this smaller, so I'm just going to have it to 0.65. Yeah, again, I think I'm just worried that a lot of the height variety I think I'm getting is from this initial spread, and not the actual this random lifetime thing. Um, and maybe the lifetime thing is maybe it's subtractive value. I'm not sure. Apparently there was a fly there at that time. That's weird. Yeah, maybe if I added a second texture too, that would make it look maybe a separate particle texture. I think it's looking okay. Maybe you tweak with the lifetime and the velocity again to make it look just so. So bump this down to say 30, so it lives a little less, and speed this up to maybe 1.5, 1.5, or 0.15. Hmm. I think I'm getting closer. I think I'm slowly getting to where I like it. Again, I'm just trying to break this down step by step. Let me see. Yeah, Chris says it still looks okay. Right now, I'm worried about at this point in time, I might just be splitting hairs, and like the tweaks I'm actually making really aren't justifying the amount of time I'm spending on it. And that's another thing I need to keep in mind too. Like I've spent basically this entire stream working on this one particle effect. And is it really worth it in the long run? I don't know. It's hard to justify. I mean, this is something I'm definitely interested in. I mean, from like a personal point of view, I love working on this stuff, but like thinking of the game as a product, I don't know. It's harder to say. Uh, So Tittles admits thinks the flame animation is a little too quick as well. The flame doesn't whip left and right to that, more up and down. Yeah, that's the thing too. Is it's stylized flame, right? It's a very um, it's like Delver itself is very cartoony and not real. I can play with slowing down the flame though. That's something we can definitely tweak. So I'm trying to think of stuff that is not super realistic, but is more like graphic and suggestive. Ugh. So now I have the particles like so yeah, you have to be careful. Like I guess not careful, but like you can get in situations where um, the picking is hard in the editor because all these things are stacked upon on top of each other. And I slowed it down a little bit there. Um, so really, I mean, try to think about it. So if I do the math, if there's 5 frames of animation, and if this guy is animating at 25 milliseconds a frame, it's 125, right? That just seems like a long time for the particles. That just seems like, yeah, see, something's wrong with my math there. But then again, I also, hmm. Let's see what chat. Yeah, I could definitely, I could tone down how much whip action is actually in the base flame. Um, that is also something I can play around with. I don't know. So there's about so I usually stream for about 2 hours, which I think is a decent amount of time. So that way you guys aren't bored out of your skulls. So there's about 7 minutes left. So if you folks like if you have any questions you're dying to ask or anything you want to know about the project, about me, about game development, whatever, feel free to fire away. Otherwise, I'll keep tweaking on this until time runs out. I'm just trying to avoid having too many particles that are sitting side by side, because then it starts to break the illusion of how this effect is being done. So maybe it means so right now so if I spawn so I'm spawning one at a time, and instead of spawning multiple at a time, I spawn one at a time and I spawn them more frequently. Maybe that's the solution. Maybe it's too frequent. That's looking better, I think. It seems to be about the right amount of spacing. Again, try playing around with this spawn count again. So Chris from New Zealand is saying he loved the update. He had a blast with it. Just wanted to mention that the shop area is an absolute killer on the way back up. A small map with tight bottlenecks. Yeah, so I mentioned earlier in the stream that I actually went back and I doubled the width of all the bottlenecks to 2 tiles wide, and that people are still complaining about it. So I'm thinking I might do either just totally rework the area, or I might do something similar to the cold area, where you can go immediately from the start to the exit pretty quickly, and then the shop is just off to the side and totally optional. Yeah, because unfortunately, a lot of my development, I don't, because I only have a few hours a week to work on it. I don't actually have time to sit down and do a full playthrough of the game because that would burn a lot of my dev time. So I just play small chunks, and that's good feedback to get is what is working for people and what's not working for people. So I definitely appreciate that feedback. Hmm. Um, so Philip Baggett says add a grappling hook. That'll fix everything. Unfortunately, adding a grappling hook or a way to jump would break everything because a lot of the levels are designed around the fact that you can't jump. And if you can jump, that means you'll be able to get outside of the levels in some places, or you get to places that I've used to imply that the level is bigger than it really is, and you just see that it's a dead end. That would kill a lot of the mystery, I think. Um, Again, that was a design consideration that we just kind of did up front. There was no jumping. The engine does support it, but I think it's more interesting not being able to jump. And also like I don't think it really adds a lot. Again, I spoke about this before, but I think we added the breakable crates in kind of a response to that because jumping is usually um, a way for a player to be like emotive to kind of express themselves, and also smashing stuff also is kind of in a similar vein. So that's what we added, try to address that. So I'll probably keep tweaking this. Who knows how long off stream. Um, um, da, 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 da. So Chris, Chris says yes, grappling hooks in every game, and I think he's saying that because Chris is also working on he's working on a first-person game, I believe called Sky Noon, if I remember correctly, and it's this kind of Western first-person shooter that takes place on these floating islands, which looks really beautiful. And I'm pretty sure you have grapples in that. Hopefully, I didn't butcher it. Sorry, Chris. Um, da, 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 da. So Testicle says if I end up reworking the interstitial areas, would I make a slight alteration to level order? He said like he's made the argument before. It makes more sense saying dungeon, sewer, cave, temple. I mean, sure, it makes more sense that way. I wouldn't be against it. My other thought too was instead of playing back out the same way you came down, what we could do is just add. I wanted to maybe instead of having you go back up, have you keep going down, but so after you beat the boss, the next level down would be ruins, and then from that would be sewer, and then cave, and then dungeon, and then you'd be out. So it would be an abbreviated playthrough of new areas that would simulate going back up. Um, I don't know. This is something that's still sitting in my brain, but because a lot of people complain that the the way back up isn't terribly interesting, and I agree. I think just going back through the areas you've already been isn't a great solution. Let me see. Blah, 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 blah. Um, Testicle. Yeah. Gi 2203. I'm sorry if it's when you say when I say GUI, I think Gi like Guido or Guillaume um, or Guillermo. So hopefully that's what I'm saying it right. But he says co-op anyone. So people keep saying that they want multiplayer, and multiplayer would be cool, but unfortunately, um, that would add a lot of dev time to the task. I had somebody on the Steam forum claim that they hacked multiplayer in, which I'm kind of skeptical about. I would like to see it, so I gave him my email address. I told him to send me whatever he wanted to, and he hasn't replied, so I'm not sure how real it is. But yeah, adding multiplayer to a game this late into its development is hard, right? Because a lot of things we've designed and built assume single player only. Um, I think if we ever do a second project, we would love to do a co-op dungeon delve sort of project. This is nothing we're committing to. It's something I would like to do. We'll see if it ever pans out. Voom says, have I ever thought about adding bombs and destructible walls for secret rooms? So you can, you can do breakable items. So like I can add. Um, so what I could do is I can say I could place an entity, and this entity is a breakable, which is a crate, and then I can say I go into play mode, and I can smash the crate, which is cool. What I can do is I think I have. Let me look at my assets here, my meshes, block, stone. So I know I did it for the temple area. Let me get the temple. I have block 0. So for the temple area, I have something like meshes, and it's temple block underscore 0 dot obj. And then its texture file is textures slash temple slash meshes. But it's not that, it's textures. Okay, and then let's fix the collision on this real quick. So it's 0.5 by 0.5 by 1. And this is kind of how you could fake that, right? So now I have what looks like normal level geo, but I can smash it. It still has, the jibs that are from uh, the crate, but you can kind of see what can be done there, right? Like we can have this wall, and then we can make it so you can. I guess I could also maybe I shall turn off. Since these are oh no, I don't want it to be. Yeah, so turn on floating. So I want these things to not respond to gravity, because you saw there what happened when I broke it. So let's. So I think this should be a reasonable way to. Yeah, so I could break that out and I can go, right? And you can make the jibs look like stone, and that would be a perfectly acceptable way to do it. And that might not be a bad way to do it. I just have to make sure that when I communicate when a wall is breakable, right? Because I don't want it to look just like the other walls, because then you're just gonna be attacking every single wall. And it's a little bit frustrating. Um, so I wanted to have like some sort of like design language that says um, this is a destructible wall, but it is totally doable. But the only other bad part is these would be in hand-built rooms. So whenever you recognize the room, the secret area would always be in the same spot, which kind of also it loses a little bit of its charm, because then it's no longer secret. It's just that this wall is here because it's always here on this particular room, and you just knock your way through it. So the first playthrough, it adds a lot of value, but then after that, it kind of goes away. Yeah, breakable walls definitely would be cool. Yeah, Testacoil is asking like special levels. I would love to do special levels. And again, towards the end, like before we release, I want to do a big content bump. But again, it's all about how much time I have. And again, being a stay-at-home dad, like I have very little time. I have, like I said, 2 to 6 hours a week to work on this project. So I just, it's tough. Um, da, 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 da. Yeah, cool. So it is 2:05, so I've gone about 5 minutes over, which is okay. But I do need to wrap things up. So I just wanted to thank everybody who came by today. Really, I appreciate all your guys' support, especially those folks of you who show up every Sunday. It's super flattering. I like thank you so much. It means a lot to me that you do this and you make time. Um, Hopefully, it's been interesting. If you think there's things I should be doing better or differently, I'd love to hear it. Please give me feedback. Um, and again, through Twitter at Joshua Skelly or email joshua.skelton@gmail.com are the best ways to give me feedback. And I guess I will see you guys next Sunday. have a good week.